Welcome to the next episode of the CAPB podcast. Today we have basic veteran celebrity status, Richard Jones, the soldier of illusion, the winner of Britain's Got Talent, but most importantly, a veteran who served 12 years in the Royal Court of Army Music. Welcome, Richard.
Oh, thank you very much. Nice, kind intro. I appreciate it.
Mate, it is ace to have you on. I've been a big fan for many, many years. And to have you on and to hear your story about moving from the military into like the public eye, if you want, is fascinating. Really can't wait.
Oh, I appreciate it. Yeah, no, I think what you're doing is very, very good. Actually, I've listened to a few of your podcasts so far, and I'm impressed. I think it's important actually what you're doing to highlight kind of the great stuff people are doing, especially when they're leaving the military, starting businesses, that kind of stuff. And actually, you've inspired me to kind of look in a little bit more into what people are doing. So I appreciate you getting me involved in it because I tell you what, I'm waffling now, but I should just tell you actually. This reminds me of just how amazing the military community is. I've experienced that to the highest degree. When I won Britain's Got Talent, a lot of that was down to the community, the forces community, all the families, and everyone getting involved. And I've never felt more of a community ever than that moment. So it's nice. We all kind of look out, keep in touch with each other, see how things are going. I think it's important. So I appreciate you doing this podcast because it's actually something I wish I probably did at some point, but I'm far too lazy to do it. So I'm pleased you're doing a good job of it.
Mate, I think highlighting what you said there about the military community. I think when you came on Britain's Got Talent in 2016, I think it was like a welcome distraction, a positive distraction from everything the military be involved with. You know, far too often around that time and before was people's relationship with the military, the public's relationship with the military was Union flags going through Wootton Bassett. You know, when people losing life and officers, to have like an alternative view and to see like the incredible talent. I mean, the things that you were doing was amazing. Just to have that and that vision of what the military community are about, I think was a welcome distraction, to be honest. And I thought, we'll get onto it. You did incredible to win such a prestigious competition, and you will always be, no matter what happens, the first magician to have won Britain's
and
Got
no
Talent.
longer the only.
No longer the only. No longer the only. But hey.
Yeah, no, actually,
Mate, so,
it's a good point what you mentioned. Actually, I won in 2016, and you're right. And I think there's a lot of credit I need to give to the Army media teams and BFPS and a lot of the people in charge of London District at the time for helping me. And I think it was what I realised when I was doing these shows. I was doing a lot on morning TV and as well as BGT and lots of other different things. And it was quite. I realised that actually it was quite an important thing for that reason. That it was a difficult time. It was nice. I think what the Army media team wanted and they were quite pleased with what I was doing is it was a real positive highlight that was separate from kind of the real tough things. And I think sometimes it's important to. Obviously, it's very important to see all the. Keep track of all the tough things that everyone was going through, but also try and attach something positive that the military is doing separate from that. And also I think it was probably handy for the Army recruiting teams. I did hear a lot of people join thinking they could be magicians. Not long after I was on the TV. So I think they boosted numbers after I was on. Sadly, there's no Court of Army.
mate. I think I love it.
But I think you're right. And a lot of credit to the media teams in the Army. They really had my back, and they were because actually I shouldn't probably tell you this but keep it between us and the 10,000 followers listening. When I first wanted to audition for the show, I'd already gone to the producers round. I'd queued for 10 hours and entertained the producers, and didn't think I'd get round to the televised round. Anyway, I got a call on a Tuesday, and it was the BGT team saying, "Oh, we loved what you do. Can you come up to Liverpool on Friday and audition for Britain's Got Talent?" And I was thinking, there's no way I'll be able to get time off for that. I went to see my boss, who was at the time, it was Major Craig Hallett, great guy. And I said, look, I've got this opportunity. We're actually supposed to be entertaining in Buckingham Palace Garden on that Friday, turns out, as the band to the Household Cavalry in the Gardens, which is a great gig. And I was thinking, he'll never let me off. But he didn't even question it. He'd obviously seen me entertaining the troops over the years, doing magic. And when I said, look, I've got this opportunity, straight away he said, look, go do it. We'll make it work. Funnily enough, I went and did it. It went well. And obviously then we had to start asking permission from the certain people to make sure it's okay for a soldier to be on TV. And in all honesty, we didn't get an okay because a lot of people, there was a big risk. I don't think anyone wanted to be the person who said, okay, green lit it.
Sign it off, yeah.
And then, because for all they knew, I went on and looked like a lunatic and made the army look terrible. And I totally understood that. But I thought, you know what, I've got to take the risk. Let's just throw myself out there. If it goes terribly, I'll probably get the sack, but we'll see. Let's just see. So that was actually before I did the audition. My boss was happy with it, but we didn't get the higher up clear. Anyway, I went and did it. Luckily, it went well. When the first audition aired, luckily, because it went well, all those same people who we probably should have got the okay from were all like, "Oh yeah, nice job." Well, it was a very risky time, and actually, I owe my boss at the time, Craig Hallett, a lot because he took a lot of risk, and I think he would have taken the fallback if it had gone badly. So it was good to have a boss like him. He was a really, really good guy.
Mate, I like that, and I think sometimes there's a quote, isn't there? And sometimes it's better to beg forgiveness than to ask in the first place.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? And Craig could have said, we haven't had the box ticked yet, so I'm afraid I'm going to have to pull the plug. But he didn't, and I think that kind of leadership is brilliant. Talking about leadership and talking about your military career, right? You are a veteran. You served for 12 years, which is an incredible amount of service. If your career was a highlight reel, what does that look like?
Well, you know what? I've loved it. I always wanted to join the army. My brother was in the army. He's just left. Actually, he did 21 years, I think he did. Both my parents were in the army, so I always wanted to join the army. I'll never forget. I still remember it really vividly. Seeing I was quite young at the time. Seeing my brothers passing out parade at Purbright, and then it all went full circle. And eventually, I joined. And it was so I always wanted to do that. And actually, when I came off the show in 2016, it was the most bizarre experience because all of a sudden I didn't know what my future looked like. I just come off this show. I've won the thing. Like, what am I going to do now? This is mad. And the next week I had a meeting. I sat around in Aldershot, went to Aldershot, had sat around this table with, I don't know, like 5-6 generals and super important people that I've pips I've never even seen before on their chest. And I was thinking, this is bizarre. And they were really good. They said, look, obviously you're supposed to give notice if you want to leave, but if this is obviously a massive thing for you, we're going to support you. If you want to leave and just dive straight into this, we'll make it happen. Or if you want to stay in, obviously your life's going to change a little bit. You're going to be doing shows in the evenings or whatever. We can see if we can make that work. And in the end, I decided I didn't want to leave because actually, to be honest, I enjoyed being in the army far more than I like the idea of just being a magician. I think it's a far more exciting life, to be honest. So I stayed in. So I stayed in for another 6 years, and I was doing shows in the evenings, weekends, and certain days off, and I was using my leave to do tours and stuff. And I'm super pleased that I did that because, in all honesty, when you jump into the world of TV and that kind of stuff, it's a different life too. We're very lucky that I feel like in the forces we kind of have each other's backs and we look out for each other. We want each other to do well. Very much in the celebrity world and the TV world, it's the opposite. I'm telling you, like everyone wants to be on everything, and it's not the same vibe. You've got to really watch out for yourself. So I was quite lucky that I had kind of the backup of the forces and the army media team were kind of guiding me and giving me backup and certain things, and so I made that work, and I juggled the two careers for another 6 years, and then I left in 2022. Officially, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I had a great time, and I was very lucky that the army started utilising me as a magician. So they were sending me around all over the place to entertain. I could spend a lot of time over in Germany entertaining the troops' families over in Germany when they're away. I still do a lot while the troops are on deployment. I was going to see the families, entertain families. Been to the Falklands to entertain the penguins down there. That's an interesting place. Did probably the best tour I ever did as a magician was I did Kabul in 2018, I think it was, and that was a really cool time because in 2018, that kind of time, it was a point where Afghan wasn't really in the media anymore. It was kind of forgotten about. Lots of people didn't even know we still had troops there at the time. So all these guys and girls over on Optoral in Kabul, like they're there doing a tough job, not really very appreciated at the time, and no one, and they get back from these tours, and it's kind of like, oh, where have you been? And it's like, well, I've just been away for 6 months, and kind of no one really, it felt like no one really cared or knew about it at the time.
Yeah, I get you.
And so BFBS, who are amazing, they've got an amazing events team. They took me out there. I took a little team over, and we're flying around on a chopper to all the different bases all dotted around, and then we do like a makeshift stage, and then we kind of surprise the troops, bring them along, and like, what's going on tonight? Magic show. What the hell is this about? And then, but I mean, it's honest, it's more comedy than the magic. It's just kind of just getting people laughing. But it was nice because like I've never felt appreciation as much as that, because them coming to the thing, and we'd also from the main place that we were staying at, we'd fill up with like cans of Coke and fizzy stuff and take that out on the choppers to these places, because they're living on this bloody army cordial water stuff. And so even just to get a can of Coke 4 months of being in the middle of nowhere in a tiny fob, it was a nice thing. So yeah, that was probably the best experience I've had, supporting our guys over there. And I still try and do that. I'm trying to get over to our guys in Estonia this year and do stuff like that.
Mate, I think it's brilliant, mate. And I think that, it shouldn't be underestimated, the moral component of fighting power, and inspiring the troops and motivating the troops, and even people making the effort and you going out there doing it would have been huge, because when you're on ops as well, like, again, you don't have your mobile phone. You don't have access to all the things you'd have access to in the UK. So to have that welcome release and have a laugh, because, mate, the stuff you do isn't like, like Paul Daniels magic. It's really funny. It's relatable. The thing you do with, like you did with the origami thing of David Beckham, still blows my mind. Like, genuinely blows my mind. And I've got so many questions about, did you like do the paper cutting before you did the magic and you brought the things together? All of that kind of stuff. Do you know what I mean? I think it's
I spent 12 years in Japan learning that. I'm telling you, yeah. Studied with Mr. Miyagi. It was a lot of preparation learning those skills.
Mate, I think it's ace. So, when did you start dabbling in the dark arts and magic? When did you just start?
So I wasn't a magician until I joined the army. So I joined in 2010, and in all honesty, it's a bit sad. It was the first time I've been away from home for a long time, which when most people join the army, it's probably the same thing. So I obviously went to Perborough, I was there, and when I then moved to, I went to the Royal Military School of Music, Nella Hall, which isn't there anymore. I was there for a year. And then after that, I started kind of getting interested in card tricks. I started watching David Blaine, Derren Brown. And actually, I went to see a Derren Brown show live in London somewhere. And funnily enough, long story short, he got me on stage and hypnotized me. And the craziest things were happening, but he got me to lift up my skin and gave me a needle, and I put a needle from my own hand because he made my hand like I couldn't feel it, and all sorts of weird stuff. And it was just mad. And I got, but the thing I really remember, and the thing that's really inspiring about being on stage, wasn't even what he was doing. It was kind of looking out and seeing like 2,000 people just completely in the moment, obsessed with that exact moment, what was happening. And that was when I realised how powerful magic is. And it's kind of one of those art forms where it doesn't matter how difficult of a day you're having or what's on your mind or whatever. In that moment that magicians try and create, which we call wonder, that moment, split second of like where your mind just like, what the hell just happened? In that moment, everything, all our energy is wrapped up in that, and everything else floods away. And I think that's why it worked quite well when I do stuff for the troops over away, because it kind of breaks that whatever else is going on in their mind. If they've had a tough time, they've been shouted at, or they've had a tough few weeks or whatever, all of that kind of gets parked to one side when you're invested in magic, and that's what I kind of like about it. You know what? I've completely lost track of what I was even talking about there. How I got into it. So I after I saw Derren Brown, he got me on stage. I thought, I'll have a bit of this. This is quite cool. I'll learn a couple of tricks, and I'll never forget. I tried a trick when I was posted in Cyprus for a little while, and I was new. I was with the Band of the Parachute Regiment at the time, and I was new to the group that didn't know me. So I tried out this new trick, and it went. I mean, it was a crap trick, if I'm being honest, but it went really well, and people were going mad for it. And little did they know, I only knew that one trick. But to them, this new group that I now work with, I'm the army magician. So secretly, every night I'd look on YouTube and I'd be like looking for books, looking through magic tricks, trying to find new tricks. And every night I'd learn a new trick, and the next day I'd go into work and try out that new trick. And the good thing about being in the army is any time I did a trick and it was crap, they'd tell me straight away, so I could learn from it. It's so we all remember the old X Factor days when you get someone go on and they're like not too great, and you think, God, why did they think they're so great? And I say, oh, my nan always told me I sung like an angel. That kind of stuff isn't necessarily always useful. Sometimes it's useful to have proper, honest feedback. And I was lucky that my guys would give me that every time I was terrible, so I could learn how to make things better and change things. And I just started entertaining every day, and gradually I got bigger and better. And I was very much a yes man. I still try and be a yes man. Any opportunity, if I feel like it will help me grow, even if it terrifies me or I think I'm not ready for it, I would always say yes. And then I just, in the window of that moment to when I've agreed to whenever this date is, I was working really hard because I didn't want to embarrass myself for that date. So I was agreeing to like officers' mess nights and big functions, even though I'd never done anything like that. I was like, yeah, I'll do that for sure. And
Richard, I think I'll just stop you there a second, mate. I think that's a brilliant attitude to have in any space, you know, whether it's business, whether it's in the arts, whatever. But to sit there and take an opportunity and then work it out afterwards and think, I've got time, I'll do this. I think it's brilliant because what again, you know, you regret 100% of the chances you don't take. You know, and all it could have been is if you'd have said no to some of those opportunities, who knows, mate? It may have never led to where it led.
And you know what it is? The biggest, exactly that, and the biggest thing that holds everyone back is they don't want no one wants to do something and be crap at it. But the thing is, you have to be crap at something to get good. You have to learn. You have to throw yourself in the deep end and risk embarrassment and doing wrong and messing things up to then grow. You can't get to anything success. You can't get to huge success until you've failed, and worked your way up that ladder. And I think by being a yes person and agreeing to things that you're not necessarily ready for, but you think is going to help you grow, is it forces you to get out and start making those failures. In my mind this year, I decided that actually my focus should be on failing more, because that means I'm out of my comfort zone, I'm out of my abilities, and that's where you grow. And so if you're not failing, you're not growing. And I'll be honest, those first mess nights that I was doing, I was making people laugh and stuff, but they're pretty crap shows. But I had to do crap shows because you can't just suddenly be great. You've got to learn your way. So it kind of forced me to do that, and that's why I grew. And then actually it would have been 2015, I thought it was another yes moment. I thought, you know what, I'm enjoying this entertainment stuff. I'll see if I can get on TV. So I started applying to every TV show. I had no idea what I would do on a TV show, but I thought, screw it, I'll just apply for everything. And funnily enough, I ended up on The Chase with Bradley Walsh. So I was on The Chase, and I did a card trick for Bradley Walsh on TV, which I was pleased with. I did terrible on it. I went for 50 grand and a higher offer, and then didn't get a single question right. So that was but the key was I just wanted to do a trick, and I'd done it.
You did a trick on national television, mate. I think I think it's a funny one. Like starting in mess functions is a kind of win-win because 99% of the time everyone's shit-faced, so at least they won't remember all of it. Paul, were you going to say something?
Well, I was just going to say, after that, I realised, because the other thing that I realised from that is I emailed probably 60, 70 different TV companies, TV shows. I literally emailed everyone. I only got a few responses, but that's when I realised you only need a few responses to in anything to grow. Because after The Chase, which annoyingly, by the way, they re-air it every year, which is kind of annoying. Because every year I always know it's aired because I'll get floods of messages on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook of people saying this idiot is on The Chase again, and his general knowledge is just as bad as it was last year and the year before. So people think I go on it every year and just get the same questions wrong, which is a bit annoying. But I after that I had another TV show that offered got in touch, which was called Pick Me, which is a strange show. But I did a trick on there as well, and then I saw BGT. So I only had those 3 responses out of like maybe 80 emails out that I'd sent, and but that's all I needed. You only need a few things to come back, and that probably the biggest thing that I've learned in growing in whatever direction you want to go. I feel like you can't become the person you want to become unless you speak about it and tell people that that's what your goal is. Because I think the moment I mentioned that I was interested in magic, people said, "Oh, let me see a trick," and it gave me a chance to grow. If I'd never have told anyone that, I would never have been doing
Yeah.
magic. If when I decided that I wanted to start doing TV, if I hadn't told people that, like when you mention that you want to do TV or you want to start doing, say for example, I wanted to start doing weddings or whatever. If you mention, oh, I'm kind of interested in starting doing entertaining at weddings, if people know that. Everyone knows someone who maybe knows someone who's getting married, and word spreads. But if you all keep your goals in your mind and no one knows about them, no one can help you. But if you say, look, this is my this year. I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to tour all over the place. People might say, "Oh, you know what? I've got a mate who works in this theatre down the road. Let me loop you in." And I think that collaboration is key to. It's been key to my success. Just people, nice people, helping out, giving me advice along the way. But I felt like I have to. The more honest I am, and the more open I am about what I want to do, the more help I get just from nice people. And I think that collaboration is key.
Love it. Love it. Paul, what were you going to say, mate?
I can't remember.
Oh, sorry. Earlier on, did you?
No. I think it was about
no
something about starting shit and being good. Just reminds me of the podcast.
Not going to joke, Richard. If you could see the outtakes when we first started recording this, it was just Paul and I using Spotify, like the creator app on Spotify, mate. Paul in North Wales, me in Gloucestershire, trying to record just an intro to a podcast. Took us maybe 2.5 hours, and we had none of it that was usable, like none of it. So yeah, and now, as I say, we're 30 episodes in.
I'm curious though, is that online somewhere? Because stuff like that is actually like a lot of people who will listen to your podcast who will be inspired by it. It's kind of nice sometimes to see that.
No, we buried that. We burnt that with fire. We burnt that with fire.
Buried.
Oh yeah.
It's gone. It's burnt with real fire. No one will ever see that again. And if people do like just come along the podcast, like if you just watch from the first episode to where we are, I think you will see the growth. And I think that's the big thing with anything. Like you said, you've just got to sometimes do it, because like Paul and I procrastinated for 3 years about doing this. And I imagine lots of people procrastinate about doing stuff all of the time to a point where you think, I can't do it now. So, it's definitely something. Richard, when was the point where like you thought, I can make a full-time living out of this? It's at this level where people are contacting me. I'm not sending 80 emails out. People are coming to me saying, can you come and work for us? Was there a point where you thought, this is it? I'm going to do this.
I mean, before I started doing TV, I was doing quite a few weddings on like weekends and stuff. On my days off, I was doing events, but not enough to make a living, obviously. But I mean, I was kind of lucky that after the TV, I was getting more opportunities coming in that I could take on. So I was very lucky. So I knew I could have left the army and gone full time. But actually, you know what? It reminds me of something that struck me that Paul said in one of your podcasts. I'll probably butcher this, but Paul, I'm sure you said something like, when you leave the army, you're not leaving a job, you're kind of leaving a life. And that really stuck with me. I heard you say that. That was inspiring words, Paul. That really stuck with me because actually that really resonates with how I felt in 2016. Because I knew I had this opportunity and I could leave and probably go and do all things all around the world and be super busy and get by. But I would have felt like I was losing a part of me, because actually a big part of what I love to do is the army, and also I felt very much part of the family, and I didn't want to separate myself from that. But I was doing well on my days off and working around in my spare time. 2022 is when I decided to leave the army and do full time. But I've been doing tours now, and it's a little bit of a gamble when you're touring, because you hire these venues all over the country and theatres, and you plan to do a show, but you never really know. Especially in the places you've never been before, you've never really know if people are going to come to the show or not. And also the frustrating thing with social media is I might do as many posts as possible and spend loads of money on Facebook ads. You might get to the venue and you don't quite sell it out, and you kind of maybe you're gutted on numbers or whatever occasionally, and then afterwards you kind of get, because people are there, they take photos and they post them. Then that spreads with people in the area, and you get messages from people saying, "Oh, I'm gutted I didn't know this was on. Like, if you would have let us know, we would have come." And it's kind of like, "Oh, I spent a fortune trying to tell you," because the way Facebook and Instagram works, you might have 30,000 followers, but Facebook only shows your post to 300 people, and if they're not in that area, it's so hard to spread the word. So
Mate, we've had people on. We've had a guy on, a Royal Marine guy called Tom Day, and he left the Royal Marines to become a social media influencer. And it was one of the most fascinating podcasts, because he's a young lad, really fit, really strong, worked really hard on himself. He was in the Royal Marines band, but trained himself because he was a bit of had a bit of weight on him. He lost some weight, trained, passed commando course, was then in the commandos. But he was fascinating about like talking, and his knowledge about the algorithms and how things land and how things can get picked up on social media. He wasn't just this lad who'd posted a couple of videos that had gone viral and was like, "I'm going to do this for a living." His knowledge and how things like how TikTok works versus how YouTube works versus how Instagram works versus how you can monetize the platforms themselves blew me away, mate. I just thought, this is a really likable guy. He's a good guy. He's funny. He'll be great. But his detail, it is an art. It is an art form. That search engine optimization and social media optimization is an art form, you know?
I admire anyone who makes a living out of social media and being an influencer, because there's so much competition, there's so much to know. And actually, it reminds me, I've got a friend who's a magician who's got, I don't know, he's got like 10 million followers on YouTube. He's massive. But I always remember, maybe 3 years ago, he started doing it. And he won't mind me saying that his videos were crap at first, but he was doing it consistently. And I thought, oh, fair play, he's doing this consistently. And I look back now, after maybe 3 years of posting, going from 0 to now at like 10 million thing. And it kind of is, actually, I'm very inspired by him, because he is very much like that. He seems to know everything. He's like a genius. He seems to know everything. But the only way you can't read a book and be like that. He only learned that because he went through those stages. Yeah, he did really well. And yeah, I kind of wish I was better on social media. I post videos and stuff, but I mean, I do a lot of Facebook ads for my tour shows, and they work quite well. But I the best thing what I do is now every venue I go to, I'll always run a competition, and I'll get everyone to get involved on social media on a competition, and I'll always try and go back to those same venues and those same areas, because then gradually you build a following in that area. And not only that, but because this is a cheeky thing, but I can, if I sound going back to say Braintree Institute is a theatre I go to sometimes. If I go back to last time I was there and I see that competition, I can say, oh, here's 400 people who commented. I can message them and say, look, I'm coming back, blah, 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 blah. So it kind of beats the algorithm, because Facebook might not be showing them the message, but luckily I've got a bank of who was there last time and I can invite them back. And that seems to work well for me.
I think it's clever, mate. I've seen one of the dates you're in Bristol in 2026. I'm in Gloucestershire, and I work in Bristol, to be honest. So,
nice.
I will get Paul. Paul can come down. Paul's still in North Wales, and we'll come and watch, mate. We won't heckle, promise. Scouts honour.
Yeah, no, drop me a message. I'll sort you out some tickets. It'd be good to have you. And actually, I should mention, anyone, I'm always in the foyer after the show. I think it's probably the most important thing of the show is being in the foyer as people leave, saying bye and thanking people for coming, see what they thought of the show, that kind of stuff. I think that's so important, and I don't think you see that enough with events like if you go and see a show, it's such a nice thing, and you'll always remember if you then got to meet whoever you'd been there to see. If you got to meet them in person after, I think that's a really important thing. And also, it's where I get to meet the most interesting people, and very often I get Forces family members that come up to me at the end and they tell me a bit of their story, and I really enjoy that, and it's nice. You build real connections, and a lot of the views I'll go back to, I'll know quite a lot about people in the audience because I'll remember them. I'll think, oh yeah, that's Creamy or whatever, and in fact, I should also do a shout out because this is like a business podcast, military related. Should do a shout out actually to I hosted an amazing event recently it was called the Celebrating Forces Family Awards. I'm not sure if you've heard
of it. Yep.
But they were amazing, and I hosted it, and I was blown away by it. And it's kind of all the family members of the serving troops who have started their own businesses up and doing good things for the community, basically. And a lot of the people, they've set up their own businesses, like the wives and stuff of some of the troops. And then every time they relocate, it's kind of like they're starting from scratch. They've got to build up a completely new base of people to then start coming over. But it's really nice because obviously everyone kind of knows everyone. Everyone's kind of helping each other out, and everyone's businesses are growing because they know people who know people who can help. And it's quite inspiring to see that despite being relocated because their partner's been posted somewhere else in the arse end of nowhere, they've still managed to think, okay, fair enough, this is a tough thing, but let's rebuild. Mate, and they're constantly rebuilding.
Paul and I both served over 35 years between us, and we were both married in service and moved around all the postings and stuff. And I think one of the things that's hit me since we've done the podcast is how brilliant the military community is. Now, we're a military veteran-owned podcast, and there are a few of us. There's one called the Pads Wives podcast, and all these other wives podcasts, and there's some really good military community podcasts, and they're not in competition with each other, and that's what I love. Same as the businesses that we have on the podcast. Like, we'll have challenge coins on, a guy called Tom Newey who makes challenge coins, which are brilliant. And then
is that Challenge Coins UK?
Yeah, Tom Newey from Challenge Coins UK.
Great guy. Yeah, he made something.
He's an incredible guy. I served in Afghanistan with Tom, so we've been friends for years and years. And when he first started, like kitchen table jobby, to where he is now, and we have guests come on the podcast, and then they'll collaborate with Tom and get coins made. Or we've had Contact Coffee on, and so people will collaborate with Contact Coffee, and then they'll get individual coffee sachets. And that military community supporting each other is like a real important thing. And for me, in the business space, where, like you said, when you're talking about moving into the celebrity space, it's a bit cutthroat. People don't want everyone else to succeed. In the military business space, it seems different. It seems like everyone just wants each other to succeed because it's in smaller numbers. Do you know what I mean? They've got a connection.
And well, the other good thing as well is it doesn't really matter how big your community is. What matters is how useful that community is. I kind of realized that on Facebook as an example, because you could have 10 million followers on Facebook, but if none of them really care that much about what you do, it doesn't matter. You're far better off having 50 followers and 50 people in your close-knit community who all look out for each other than having 10,000. And I think that's what the forces community is. When you've got, I mean, really, you only need, like, for example, what I do a lot of corporate hosting and after dinner shows. And really, in my line of work, you only need maybe 15, 20 really close-knit people who you work with and work for. Once you're in that family, if those people want you back, that's the good thing about my line of work is every time they do an event, if they're getting me every time, I don't constantly need to worry about searching for new clients all the time. As long as I can be a part and have a good impact on the people that I do work with, I'll be working with them hopefully forever. And so really, you only need a small amount of committed people in your community, and you're set, and you've got that constant flow of working together. Nice.
That community spirit of people just supporting each other's age. The two, as I say, there's a few big good podcasts who I'll just give a shout out. You've got the HR podcast with Hugh Keir, which is brilliant. You've then got the Pads Wife Assemble podcast, and then which are two Pads Wives who talk about all the things that like military wives want to talk about. And it's a brilliant podcast. And then you've got the Even Keel podcast, which is Navy wives, and they've got they talk about the experiences where their husbands go away for 9-10 month on tours. And so just a big shout out to those podcasts. They're doing great stuff. Right, Richard, in your magician career, working in that celebrity space, you have done some incredible things for and with some incredible people, including the king, right? Let's not mess about. Was there a pinch me moment where you thought, I can't believe I'm doing this? I can't believe I'm doing this for these people. Was there a moment where you thought, I can't believe I'm here?
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, to be honest, I've never really been starstruck by anyone. I'm not really. I kind of, although I dabble in the entertainment space, no one in the entertainment world, people on TV necessarily, apart from Darren Brown, because I always admired him when I started getting into magic. Everyone else, I kind of, in all honesty, I'm terrible at even recognizing people. And I have this issue actually that I go to a lot of events where there's really famous people and I'm kind of working with people and very often I have no idea who any of them are and they're like super, super famous people. And most of the time I don't care, but sometimes maybe I'm chatting to someone and I can feel that they're insulted that I don't know who they are. But I'm just terrible. But because I don't really watch TV much. I watch Netflix, but yeah. And so funny story. I did a gig in Buckingham Palace. It was a garden party. It was a great event for charity. So I'm a patron of Scotty's Little Soldiers, and they were one of the charities who'd been invited along for this garden party. So they'd asked me to go along as a kind of representative as well and wander around and do a little show on stage and entertain the crowds. So I thought, oh yeah, that would be lovely. So I go along and I took my mum with me, which was nice. And we get there early, so we're put in this. I was going to say holding pen, but it was a palace. It was a lovely room. Usually I'm in a cloakroom, like in a broom cupboard. But yeah, it was this lovely, and they bring food out, and there's a few other people there, and there's this lady I'm chatting to there, and anyway, I go and do my thing, and then later on, I see the lady who I was having lunch with was singing on stage, and it was Jess Glynn, and I'd heard her music before, but I didn't know what she looked like, and I'd had this lovely lunch with who I just thought I don't know who she is. I'm just having this chat, and then realised Jess Glynn, like, oh, she's a pretty massive name, like, oh god, and I love her music. I kind of felt stupid that I didn't know it was her, and I would have got a photo because I love her music. I thought she was great. So that was kind of funny. When I used to do the garden parties, like the Queen was just amazing. I mean, I don't know anyone else who's ever gone their entire life with not offending anyone. She always did the right thing at the right time. She was just brilliant. It's funny because obviously King Charles says the wrong thing at the wrong time every time, but that's why people love him. He's funny. But he's so different from the Queen. But he's really cool as well, and he's got a really good sense of humour. And I've worked with, well, I say worked with him. I haven't worked with him. I've worked for him a few times in different capacities. And he's actually a member of the Magic Circle. Not a lot of people know that. But he did, when he was younger, did learn magic, and he did an audition at the Magic Circle. And probably shouldn't tell you this, but just about half a mile down past Buckingham Palace, down the Mall, there's a pub called the King's Arms. And he's in there Friday nights doing table magic for tips. So keep an eye out for him. He's not really. But he was cool.
I love that, mate. I really, really love the fact that, and I completely forgot, to be honest, that winning Britain's Got Talent wasn't just well done. You're the highest talent. Here's some prize money and you go on to the variety show, the variety performance, the Royal Variety, and that must have been like mad.
I mean, this is probably embarrassing to say this actually, and I don't mean any offence to the Royal Variety performance, but the first thing I said when I went on Britain's Got Talent, as I walk on, there's like this little nervous wreck, like walking on, oh, hi, I'm Richard. They asked me questions, and in my mind, I just planned what to say. And they said, oh, what's your big dream? I said, oh, I always wanted to perform the Royal Variety performance. In all honesty, I can't even remember ever seeing the Royal Variety performance. It just felt like the right thing to say at that time. So I said it. And anyway, but obviously the Royal Variety performance is massive. It's amazing, but I didn't really know anything about it. Never really, I don't think I ever recall ever seeing it before. But that was a really cool experience. So I did it as a dedication to my brother and his team, the bomb disposal team, and they had some real incredible stories. And I felt like I didn't want it to be about me. Especially because I was a representative of the army. It felt wrong to go out, especially if I'm going out in uniform as well, and they just start, look at me, flashy trick, look at me, aren't I great? I kind of never really liked that vibe. I wanted to kind of dedicate it to them, and it was amazing because we had 4,000 people in the audience, obviously on TV as well, and at the end, I tell this story about one of their hairier moments out on the grounds in Afghan. And at the end, his team, they all marched out and took a salute. And there wasn't a dry eye in the house. Everyone was on their feet for them, and it was a real special moment. And it was quite funny because we also had a band of the Household Cavalry on stage with us as well. They were amazing. And afterwards, we're in a lineup. So you have this lineup after Royal Variety performance, and the King comes and says hello to everyone. And Camilla, obviously he wasn't King at the time, but he got Camilla behind. And he comes and shakes my hand, and he asked me a few questions. And all of I couldn't understand what he was asking me. I don't know if it's because I was just in the moment, like, what's happening here? Or whether I just couldn't hear him. But I had no idea what he was saying. So I was just saying words to try and fill the space. And then Camilla was lovely. She came over, and I had a good chat with Camilla because she was really nice. But funny enough, there's this photo of me, my brother, and the King, which is our favourite photo now we have in the house. Really nice moment. And next to us, I think, is Sting, who I didn't know was Sting. Obviously, I'd heard of Sting, but I didn't know what Sting looked like. So I'm stood next to Sting, and I probably shouldn't tell this story because it's not really my story. But my brother, before the show, was getting chatted up by this woman backstage, and he came up to me and he said, "God, this mad woman, she kind of won't leave me alone. She's like chatting to me. She keeps like she's a bit much. Like, who is she?" Anyway, I look over, figure out who he's talking about. It was Lady Gaga. Was like, I said, "You know, that's Lady Gaga." She's like, she was one of the ones I did recognise. And he's like, "God, she's mad. She won't leave me alone." It's like, "Oh, that's probably a good problem." I don't know. But,
Mate, that must have been. It must have been pretty unique to share the stage with your brother as well, and have the opportunity to do that. Do you know what I mean? I think that's pretty cool. Richard, we are coming towards the end of the podcast. What's next for you for the Soldier of Illusion? What's next?
So my main thing really is I'm in a good place, and I kind of want to just keep going the way I'm going. Lots of people ask me, "You can do more TV?" I do morning shows and stuff a few times a year, mainly just to keep my face going and to help highlight that I'm doing shows in the theatres in local areas. But in all honesty, I find TV quite stressful, and it's high risk and very low reward. I kind of feel like everything that I can gain from doing TV kind of already has happened for me, and it's given me the connections that I needed to do what I'm doing. And I don't feel like I want to put myself under that stress of doing live TV, because I don't think, I mean, it's nice to reach a big audience, but at the same time, I kind of now try and have a balance, and I think it's important to have a balance. It's good to put yourself out there so that you can grow, but it's also good to figure out when you might be more successful, but it will have a knock-on effect of your personal happiness. And I started to realise a couple of years ago that I'm doing these massive TV shows and I'm not gaining much from them, and it's giving me a lot of stress and anxiety and taking up a lot of time preparing for them. And if I'm not growing enough, it's better that I don't do that. And I feel like I'm really lucky. I do a nice amount of work. I'm at a happiness level, probably the happiest I've been in a long, long time.
Love that.
Now, far happier than I was when the first few years after the BGT, I was doing shows all over the place. I was kind of a way out of my league in a lot of the gigs I was doing at the time, and I was constantly under stress. And I'm pleased I went through that, because that's grown me to where I am now. But I feel like it's important to find a level where you're happy and commit to keeping that zen. I kind of, this probably sounds mental, but I try and find as much peace and enjoyment in what I do. Now, if I get too stressful to do it for whatever reason, I considered, whereas in the past I would have considered, take it on, take it, do it, learn from it. Now I kind of feel like if I don't need to do it, I don't need the stress, I don't need to worry about it. And so I try now to do all the things I enjoy, and I love doing the tour shows because I get to meet amazing people. So I'll be dotted around. I am trying to add more shows to my website over the next year. And I love to do.
Are you coming up to Wales at all?
I usually go to. I'm going to try and get some more in Wales. I usually do Monmouth. There's a theatre in Monmouth, which is South Wales.
And there's Venue Cymru in North Wales as well. It's in Llandudno. That's pretty good.
Well, oh, you know what? This will help. You're talking about just telling your plans and people helping. Uh, I am kind of always on the lookout for new gems of venues where I can go to, because I'm always trying to find new places to take the tour. So anyone listening, like any ideas or local venues that you got that are good to you, please drop me a message on Instagram or whatever and let me know, and I'll try and reach out to them and try and, because I want to try and reach as many places as possible, especially if I know people there want to see the show. Yeah, I should also say I'm at Richard Jones Magic on all social media. So I'm on like Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, OnlyFans. I'm on all of them. So obviously I'm only joking. I'm not really on Twitter. So, but make sure you all drop me a message. Yeah.
Brilliant.
And if you come into the show, I'd love to know. And I'll make sure I sort you two out. You and your family to get me on the podcast. So let me know if you can make a grave in Bristol.
Mate, honestly, it has been fascinating talking to you, Richard. Like, really fascinating, and to hear it from your point of view. There's a few things like that really quite poignant, like taking risks. Volunteering for stuff that you didn't think you were ready for, just to build on it, and also like now, the work-life balance part. I can relate to, Paul can relate to, like massively, and it's not about just like doing as much as you physically can. It's about having the balance. And I think that's the same for people, a lot of the guys we've had on and girls we've had on about business. It's just to prevent the burnout, because if you're burnt out, you can do nothing. But having a balance, like you say, where you've never been happier. And that's mad, because like people would assume that, hey, surely back in the day when you're doing this and you're on telly here and you're on telly there, like you said, it was like big lot of work for limited rewards. Whereas now,
Yeah.
doing gigs and going around the country and talking to people afterwards, like having that physical connection, which is surely what magic and entertainment's all about, being connected with people. I think it's
Yeah.
brilliant, mate. I think it's really brilliant.
Actually, I should also mention that there is a risk out there, and I got very entangled in, and that is what do you call it, the grind, the kind of YouTube video grind mindset. You see all these people who are like, I can't think of even an example, but all these people who are, you watch these motivational videos on YouTube and stuff. These people like, God, you should be waking up at 3 a.m. and hustling. Oh, that's what that hustle mentality, which is obviously important. You've got to push yourself and all that kind of stuff. But I realized I was entangled in a lot of terrible advice of people like, you should be sleeping 4 hours a night and you should be constantly working, doing constant growing. If you're not growing, you're dying, and all this nonsense. And I feel like that's so unhealthy. And I was so wrapped up in that for a long time, and I was like that. And to be fair, I did grow. But it's important to remember that actually life isn't about making money and just about business. It's more about your life, and that's what supports your happiness. And I think that's why it's important not to get too carried away by the people who people like, come on, if you're not growing, you're useless. And like, it's it's important. Yeah, I think the thing that's important is find the baseline of what you need to bring in and what you need to earn as a business and a company to sustain the basic. This is what I've done to sustain my basic level of living, all the essentials. Nice to have a target of what you want to reach. Yeah, that's fair enough. But then as long as you're reaching that, you're somewhere in between that scope. Enjoy the moment.
Mate, it's been brilliant. Honestly, it's been absolutely. Thank you so much for giving up the time. And Paul, thank you for disrupting your OP for the podcast.
I'm not.
It's been great, mate.
I'm not even joking. It's hooning it down and it's windy. But hey, I love it. I love it. I love it.
Love of the podcast,
Rich,
mate. That's what it's about.
exactly. Rich, thanks so much for coming on, mate. It's been amazing.
I appreciate it, and I appreciate what you're doing. And hopefully there's some interesting things that I've said, but I'm still learning, and a lot of what I'm talking about is probably nonsense. But
It really isn't, mate. And I cannot wait to share your story. Thank you so much, Richard Jones. Take care, mate.